Hi, seniors, economics students. I apologize for being so late to post this video today. I've had some real computer issues that it's just been really a complicated kind of day, and I'm sorry about that, but not your fault. We're getting things done and we'll move on. Okay, so today we're going to talk about the types of consumer credit that are available. We had already talked about that really, as far as a consumer goes, there's only two reasons to borrow money, and one is consumption and the other is for investment. So now we're going to look at it more from the lender's perspective. What are the types of consumer credit? I apologize, I'm using Keynote, which is part of the computer issues I've had today. So I can't see my camera, and there's several other pieces here, but we're going to make it through and it's going to be fine. All right, so anyway, two types of consumer credit as far as the lender is concerned. That's installment credit and open-ended credit. And we're going to look at both of these individually. Okay, so the first one is installment credit. This is where you agree to pay for a purchase making scheduled payments, like a car payment or a mortgage. I'm going to pay X number of dollars every month until it's complete. Okay, that's an installment type of credit. Okay, so there's a couple of terms we need to know about installment types of credit. First of all is the term. That's how long is it going to take you to pay it off. Okay, as the longer the term, the smaller the payment will be, but again, it's not really saving you anything because you're going to end up paying more interest for a longer term. The principal is the original amount that you borrowed. Okay, so if you want to go out and buy a new car and the new car is $10,000, the $10,000 is the principal. The term will be, is it 10 years? If you can't buy a car for 10 years, that's too long of a term. If you decide you're going to pay for it over 5 months, then the term would be 5 years, would be 60 months, okay? That would be the term. 60 months would be the term. The principal would be the amount you originally borrowed. The interest is those additional charges that the creditor requires. Of course, that depends on the interest rate and things like that. The last thing I want you to think about is the amortization schedule. This is an actual table, and there's an example of one on page 123 in your textbook that breaks down how each payment is made. How much principal and how much interest do you pay with each payment? And your book goes into a lot of details about the law of 78 and that kind of thing. Not really all that important because an amortization schedule is pretty easy to print off the internet. There's amortization calculators out there everywhere. But this is what one would look like. One of the things to note on this, and I know it's a little fuzzy, I apologize for that, but the first payment is made on a $9,300 loan. And that first payment, let me see if I can't get my cursor to work. That's part of the other problem. That first payment, I want you to see, pays $34.88 in interest and $371.04 in principal. Okay, so that's a lot of principal. $34 in interest isn't too bad, but the total payment is $405.92 in that fourth column from the left. Okay, if you notice, if you look down that fourth column, the payment remains consistent. That is what an installment payment does. It remains consistent. But if you look over at the interest and principal columns, the interest goes down and the principal goes up with each payment. That's why looking at that amortization schedule is really important when you first take out a loan, and you can see how much interest is it that I'm paying versus the principal. And then, of course, if you make extra payments, if, for example, your car payment here is $405, let's say you pay $450 every month. Well, that would be off of the principal for the most part. But again, it's about reading the terms of your loan carefully. Okay. Two types of installment credit are a secured loan, which is backed by collateral, a good with value, like a motorcycle, a car, a motor home, a house, things like that. Even my ring, when my husband wanted to propose to me, he bought my ring on an installment credit. Okay, so it was backed by my ring. Okay, an unsecured loan has no collateral. Now you can imagine from a lender's perspective, that involves more risk. He has nothing to repossess if you don't pay your loan. So usually the interest rates on those are higher, and he's going to require the buyer, the purchaser, the borrower to meet a higher standard in order to qualify for that loan. Okay. Open-ended credit is the other type. This is a revolving credit, like a credit card, okay? And the biggest example of this is a credit card. Usually it's not completely open-ended in that it does have a predetermined credit limit, a maximum amount that you can borrow, but you can do, $20 this month and $30 next month or whatever. You can borrow a little bit at a time. That doesn't make it any better, but it's not a consistent amount up front. Okay, so when the payment is due, the borrower can either pay the entire balance, he can make the minimum payment, or something in between. Now, if your maximum amount, your entire balance, is below a certain threshold, many credit cards would require you to pay the entire balance. For example, if I use my credit card today for a $35 grocery bill, I would probably have to pay that entire $35 next month if I weren't carrying a balance on the card. Okay, accounts usually start with a low credit limit, and then as you prove yourself to be trustworthy and responsible, they'll gradually raise that credit limit. Okay, these are some things to watch out for on consumer loans. They may be there, they may not, and you may want to know up front whether or not they are in your loan documents. An acceleration clause. This means that you can be forced to pay the entire balance due if you are late on just one payment or on multiple payments depending on the terms of the loan. So you would want to know about that. For example, you miss a car payment 1 month because you lost your job. Well, according to some car loans, they can demand the entire balance due right now. A balloon clause. Now, let me explain what this is. This is you pay maybe only the interest on a loan for an extended period of time with a large balance due at the end. For example, you could have a balloon payment due on a house, and I've seen this happen before, where you pay minimal payments all along for 2 or 3 years on that house, but then at the end of that 2 or 3 years, the entire balance is due. Now, if you're just an excellent saver, maybe that's a good plan for you, but for most people, that's not really a good idea. One place where this does come in handy is in my husband's company for building houses. They may do a loan like this, so they pay only the interest while they're building the house, and then at the end they're going to sell it anyway, so they don't mind that big balloon payment because they'll get it taken care of as soon as they sell the house. So it's handy when it's useful, but when it needs to be planned out, and you need to know that that's the type of loan you have. Okay, some other loan clauses that you might run into are a prepayment penalty, where the lender is going to require a penalty payment if you pay it off early. You want to make sure, especially on a car payment or something like that, that there is not a prepayment penalty so that you can get that taken care of. Repossession, again, this is going to be similar to that accelerated payment idea, where the creditor can come take possession of your car back if you miss a payment. Read the details. This will vary from loan to loan. And then there are some where they make a stipulation in the loan document where they can garnish your wages, meaning that they can take money directly from your employer, from your paycheck, and you will not see it. You will have no control over it. The government can also do this if you, for example, had child care payments that you were delinquent on. So garnishment is a really nasty thing to get into. They can take as much as a quarter of your paycheck. Okay, how do we avoid credit card fraud? Well, I'm sure we all have some ideas on this. Maybe you've been the victim of this or your parents have. But here's some things to watch out for. And I think we've talked about some of these in class before. When you're dealing with the cashier and you hand a credit card over, you need to make sure that your receipt shows the exact amount of the purchase. You need to make sure that the cashier didn't make an extra receipt, that the card doesn't leave your site. Now, sometimes that's hard to do in restaurants, but we're getting better about that, and technology is catching up with us. And you need to also make sure that you get your card back immediately. There's really no reason for a cashier to take your card into a back room behind a door to run your credit. Never, ever, ever give your social security number or your credit card number over the phone or in an email, really, for any reason. And I know that sounds a little extreme, but you never want to fall victim of clickbait, where you get an email from what you think is your bank and they say, come verify your social security number or your credit card number, and you click on it and there it is. No, don't ever do that. Don't respond to an email like that. Your bank will not do that. If you think that email is from your bank, then call your bank in person or go by there in person and find out. Don't click on reply in an email like that. Be careful what you put in your trash, and shred your private information. If it's just got your address, shred it. Carry only the cards that you need for what you're doing that day. Don't carry the extras. Losing them is very painful. And then also keep a list of your cards and your contact info in a safe place where nobody can get to it. Be careful with discarded equipment. I've heard once that that information that you run through a copy machine is stored on that copy machine, and you don't want to fall victim of somebody else coming upon that hard drive 10 years later and getting your private information. And then I put up there any added words of advice. Maybe this will be the question of the day for us. Proverbs 14:15 tells us, the prudent man looketh well to his going. Watch out for yourself. Don't fall victim. Okay? I miss you all. Hopefully we'll get another Zoom class here going soon. And I hope you all are having fun and having a good day. See you soon.